Hello, my name is Jo, and this is my introduction to YouTube and the language learning community. So I have been interested in starting a YouTube channel for a long time. I actually had one when I was in high school, or just out of high school, I can't remember. And I made like 5 or 6 videos, and I had like, I don't know, maybe 20 subscribers or something. And then my sister found my account because she was snooping on my laptop, and she told my other sister about it, and I got all embarrassed and I stopped doing it. And sometimes I think about what would have happened if I'd kept up with it, but you know, you can't go back and change things. But so after thinking about it for so long, I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna try it. So here I am. I have a lot of interests, so I'm going to try. Interests are learning languages, reading books. I read a lot of books. I read over 100 last year. And running. I really like running, and I have a lot of interest in anyway, we will see where things go. But for now, I thought I would introduce myself by discussing kind of my language goals for 2021, such as they are, and what resources I'm using and what kind of routine I'm trying to establish for myself. So I guess kind of my history with languages. Right now I am learning Spanish and German. Occasionally I dabble in Korean, but I'm not putting any pressure on myself to make that a language that I'm learning. For me, it's just really fun. It's not something I necessarily even aspire to be fluent in. I am a true beginner, and sometimes it's fun to dabble in it. But anyway, I'm actually studying Spanish and German. I would consider myself a beginner in both. I am closer to intermediate in German. I actually was taught a fair amount of German as a kid, and so I have a lot more of just kind of a basic understanding in German. Like, if I stop studying it, I don't forget what I know, whereas Spanish, I definitely do. I've taken one college class in Spanish, and then just been self-studying since then. So last year I don't want to say burnt myself out on Spanish, because that sounds like I was doing a lot, and trust me, I was not. But I was studying with very traditional methods. I took a college class, and then I did a Lingoda course, and I just don't enjoy studying that way. It's fun for a while, but after 2 months I get sick of it. So since it wasn't something that I was required to do that way, I was like, I'm going to go my own way. So I've been researching a lot on how to study since then, and that's kind of how I'm building my study routine for this year. So anyway, all that to say, I don't have a lot of set goals for 2021. Really, my goal is to stick with both of my languages for the whole year. If I need to take a break in one or both of them, that's totally fine, but I want to feel like I made progress in both languages by the end of the year. And that's kind of a terrible goal to have in some ways. You know, I know all of the stuff about how you're supposed to have SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, all that stuff. I'm throwing all that out the window. I just want to make progress, and I want to enjoy it. So those are my goals. I want to be able to read novels in both Spanish and German by the end of the year, and I'd like to be able to understand the vast majority of Disney level movies in both languages. I can obviously watch them in both languages now, but I wouldn't say I understand the vast majority. I would say I understand some. So those are my goals. Read novels and enjoy reading novels, and watch Disney level movies. So as far as the resources and methods that I'm using to study this year, I have been doing a lot of research into language acquisition versus language studying, and it was an idea that was kind of popularized by Stephen Krashen, and There's a very popular channel, Matt vs. Japan, who kind of also popularized this on YouTube, and they emphasize input, specifically reading and listening, versus such a focus on output and a focus on learning grammar. So that is kind of what I'm moving forward with, just because I enjoy it a lot more. I do think it's more effective, but also, you know, I don't need to learn these languages super fast. I'm not doing this for a specific reason. I have reasons that I want to learn them, but it's not like I'm learning business English, or, you know, I'm not taking these courses in school. I just want to learn these languages, so this is the method that's enjoyable for me, and also I happen to think that it's more effective. So I will link some videos and resources on this below if you are interested, but that's kind of the method that I'm moving forward with. So right now for me, that is looking like reading graphic novels. The reason behind graphic novels, I've never actually been into graphic novels in English. I love the art, I think that they're beautiful, but I've never gotten into reading them, just because I love to read, and graphic novels are so slow to read, and well, they're not slow to read, but to me it was always like, all this beautiful art is getting in the way of reading. You know, like I would rather just read a book or look at art. I've never been a huge fan of them put together, although maybe doing this for languages will convert me. But the other problem that I've had with the kind of input hypothesis is that stuff that I can understand, I am incredibly bored by for the most part. Like, I don't want to read books for kindergartners. Like, that's not fun to me. So graphic novels, since they have so many more context clues than just words on a page, they're easier for me to read at a higher level. So that's kind of why I'm moving forward with graphic novels as at least a first key step in my learning. So I also definitely want to watch movies and YouTube channels, so if you have recommendations, absolutely leave them below. Same with podcasts. I have a couple, but I always need more. I will show you, oh, the other thing, so in addition to just input, like I just want tons of interesting input in the form of stories, but also if I have something that I'm curious about in the form of grammar, or, you know, if I'm like, you know what, I really need to know how to form, I don't know, all the numbers or something like that. Like, I know how to do the numbers, but if I was like, I need to know specifically how to, why can I not think of a single thing? So like if I was like, I am so sick of not understanding accusative case in German or something like that, I just want to sit down and I just want to learn it and I just want to be done with it, then like I will absolutely just do that. You know, like I'm not so married to this input hypothesis that I'm not going to engage in regular learning if that happens. And so this just happened recently for me with Spanish and the past tense. None of the classes that I've taken have gotten to the past tense, and so I was familiar with it conceptually. Like I could usually, but not always, tell if I was looking at something that it was the past tense. But I was like, I just want to know. Like, it's not like I'm gonna memorize how each and every irregular past, you know, perfect is formed or whatever, but like I just want to know what is the pattern. So I looked it up in my book. So, you know, like I looked it up in my book. I wrote it down. I wrote down how the preterite is formed and how the perfect is formed. And, you know, then now I know what the pattern is. You know, like I didn't memorize it. I might not remember it perfectly, but I know the gist of it. So, you know, that's something that I'm definitely open to and plan to do throughout the year. Also, this is not like a year-long plan. I know the in thing to do this year, and I think it's a great idea, are the quarterly goals for language learning. I'm not really doing quarterly goals, but I am open to changing these goals. Right now, I had like some January goals, most of which, to be completely honest, I'm not going to achieve. But, you know, I am open to changing these as the year goes on and as I discover what does and doesn't work. So, to show you kind of what I'm using this year, I have these two books from Teach Yourself. They are kind of reference books. I believe they don't make these anymore. They make something kind of that looks similar. It's like Essential German Grammar and Essential Spanish Grammar. So I don't know if those like replace these or if they're just updated, but anyway, these are just like reference books on grammar. So like here is an explanation of dative case in German. And so it just goes through, it shows you all the forms, it gives you the prepositions that always require dative. Sorry, that was so loud. Prepositions that sometimes require dative. Why is German like this? And then it gives you like some context, a sample text, and then usually there is, oh, taking it further, dative plural, because you know, dative wasn't enough. But anyway, and then there's some exercises at the end of each chapter. So anyway, they're really good reference books. It's not a complete textbook on any level, but I think that they're really helpful, and I really like the way that they just concisely explain everything. So these are kind of my primary reference materials. I do have a couple other textbooks. I don't really like any of them, but if I need more explanation of something, I can always refer to those as well. I will show you the books that I have in each of these languages. I have a lot of novels, especially in German. I've been, you know, off and on dabbling in German and learning it to a certain degree or another for most of my life, and German books aren't super easy to get in the US, but sometimes I'll stumble across something at like Goodwill or at a used bookstore, and then occasionally I have purchased them new, like for one reason or another. So at some point I would really like to read some of the novels that I have in German. These are just a couple of them. There's like The Little Princess, which looks pretty basic. Like, this is something that I feel like I should start with because it looks pretty basic. I have been on and off trying to read Harry Potter in German for ages. It is pretty hard for me at this stage. Like, I could do it, but I have to skip a lot or look a lot up, and that's not very fun. I also have the audiobook of that in German, which is really helpful. So kind of low-key a goal for me by the end of the year is to have read that. Just another one is Anne of Green Gables, which seems kind of between these two in difficulty. I don't know. It doesn't seem like Harry Potter should be that hard, but man, every time I try to read it, I just get lost in all the vocab. So anyway, so German, yeah. I generally prefer to keep everything like analog, like not use my computer for most things, because I work on the computer all day long, every day. Like, that's my job. I am so sick of looking at the computer. Never want to look at screens, I mean, other than my phone, which I'm glued to all the time. I try to minimize my screen time when I'm not at work. So the only thing that I use electronically in my study routine is my iPad. I already had an iPad from when I was in school. Otherwise, I would just use my phone for this. There's no need to have an iPad, you know. Anyway, but I read my German graphic novels on my iPad because they're so much easier to access here in the US. Like, I was looking at graphic novels in German online, and they're like $40 to get them to the US each, and I was like, no, we won't be doing that. So I have a Scribd. I don't know how to say that. I don't know whether it's Scribd or Scribed. I hear people say both, but the way it's spelled, it makes me want to say Scribd, so that's what I always say. But anyway, I have a Scribd subscription, and if you change your app language to your target language, there is a wealth of material on Scribd. So I have read the book Fangs. I also read a couple little, like this Orphan Black comic series. They weren't that great. I don't know if I'll finish it, so I switched over to graphic novels. But anyway, so right now I'm reading Nimona, I assume is how you say that, and it is very cute so far. I'm only a couple pages in, but so that's where I'm getting my German graphic novels. Spanish graphic novels are pretty accessible in the US. I had a gift card for the evil Bezos Empire from Christmas, and I actually have another one now, so I'm perusing for even more books, but you know, I'll get to that in another video probably. But I picked up a lot of graphic novels after Christmas on Amazon. I will link them below from Bookshop because most of them are on Bookshop. The German ones, they don't have the German ones on there, so I'll just link something else. But anyway, I picked up a whole bunch of graphic novels that I think are going to be really fun and hopefully pretty easy to understand. So currently I am halfway through Una Arruga en el Tiempo, which is A Wrinkle in Time if you know, don't learn Spanish. It is really fun. I am really enjoying reading it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I would say this is a little above my level. I am really super familiar with the story. This was one of my favorite books growing up. If you've seen the movie, don't judge the book by the movie. Don't even get me started. The movie was like whatever. But anyway, loved the book. This is really great. I am definitely learning a lot. I don't look up every word that I don't know, like not even close. I tend to look something up if I truly can't understand the meaning of the sentence, or I don't understand like what's happening at all. I look something up then, just enough to get the meaning, and then I tend to scribble down some vocabulary words while I'm reading and look them up after I'm done reading, because it's really disruptive to the flow of reading if you're stopping and looking things up constantly. So next I might try this La Magia del Orden. La Magia del Orden, which is the life-changing magic of tidying up, the manga in Spanish. I am a Marie Kondo bitch. Like, I love Marie Kondo. So when I saw this on Amazon, I was like, yeah, sold. So anyway, this one, I think it might be easier than some of my other ones. I don't know. This is the one that I'm most nervous about. This is Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the first one. I haven't read this in English and I haven't seen the movie, so I will be unfamiliar with the plot, and I think that will make this significantly more difficult, so I'm saving this one until I'm a little bit more comfortable. I also have this short stories in Spanish. I have the beginner one and the intermediate one. I don't know what I was smoking getting the intermediate one, but you know, something to work towards. And so this is another thing that I will at some point work on. Another thing that I'm really enjoying, I'm using this for both actually, and this is another thing that's on my technology. Why aren't you focused? Okay. I lied before when I said the only thing I was using was Scribd. I occasionally, usually on my phone, if I'm bored, do something on Lingodeer. I did buy a year subscription earlier, like last year when I was learning Korean, because this is a really great Korean resource. So occasionally I'll do something on there. And the other one that I sometimes use is called Bilingua app. It's not great on iPad because it's just the iPhone app but larger. But it has stories. The free version you can only have one language, so you have to pick your language, or they have subscriptions. But so you pick your story and it reads it to you, and you can turn off the translation or you can have the translation going, and it like reads it out loud to you. So I am working on my listening with that because you can read along and it makes it a lot easier. So I think those are all of the resources that I'm using for the most part. I mean, obviously there's infinite resources online. Like, if you don't have the money, like this is what I'm always like reluctant to show resources and stuff, because everyone tries to make it out like if you don't have money, Duolingo is the only thing that you can use, but like that's so not true. Like, the Bilingua app has a free version. There's so many free things online, like stories that you can read. YouTube has stories that people have. There are podcasts that tell stories and then have a transcript that you can download. There's like infinite things. You can, if you have a library access, you can use that. If they have other language books, I guess. I get spoiled by my library and forget that not all libraries are great. But anyway, so you don't need to own, you know, physical copies of things. You don't need an iPad, you know, all those things. Anyway, moving on to how I'm like tracking and organizing my progress. So again, I try to keep everything analog. Just for me personally. I know a lot of people do great things with like Notion or Evernote or, you know, Google Calendar, and they do all kinds of cool tracking, and that would be way better for like statistics and stuff. The only thing I do that is like is I do use Forest, and I have categories for the different things that I do. Like, I have a studying category, I have a reading category for each language. Other than that, I use my bullet journal for trackling. I use my bullet journal for tracking. So I just do like a calendar, and every day that I do anything in the language, I track that. And then weekly, this is something that I started doing actually for fitness, and then it just kind of translated into my languages. So fitness, I always do like kind of a wish list. You can tell this week I've been really bad fitness wise. I've been recovering from a cold. I don't like planning out like a whole week in advance because I don't know what days I'm gonna want to do something. Maybe it's really bad weather one day and I'm scheduled for a run, and then I'm just like, I don't like scheduling it out. So I do like, yeah, what I would call like a wish list or a shopping list or something of things, and then I just transfer them to the day that I end up wanting to do them or whatever. So I started kind of doing that with Spanish and German. This is the kind of the first week that I'm formally set it up like this. So I didn't have a lot on these things, as you can see, but like Spanish, I had learn past tense on there because I wanted to do that. And then in the day, I write what I actually did in that language. So like this one, I finished a graphic novel and I wrote a review of it on my Instagram. Check out my Instagram at Katza Books. Anyway, and then I write like if I got to a certain page in my Spanish book, etc. So that's how I'm tracking. I'm not gonna have like great stats at the end of the year or something, you know, like some people have really cool things where they're like, I studied 10,000 hours and I read in my target language for, you know, this amount of time. But anyway, so that was kind of the introduction to what I'm doing here on this channel and what I'm doing this year for languages. I'm certainly no expert. I'm not trying to tell you to do what I'm doing. I just wanted to share and kind of set up an accountability method for myself and, you know, get some kind of community for what I'm doing here. So I will see you in the next video. Okay, it's dying. So anyway, check out links below and I will see you next time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.